Well, the challenge that Buddhism posed was obviously a threat to the traditional Vedic priestly system, and that was not going. The challenge was not going to go without a degree of opposition. And so the Vedic tradition reformulates itself. Some of the gods and goddesses of the old tradition go, new gods are adopted, and out of the old Vedic tradition comes Hinduism, as we would know it today. It is really, Hinduism is a response to Buddhism. And that, not everyone is exactly clear on that. Sometimes, we think Hinduism came first. Well, an archaic form of Hinduism came first, and Buddhism responds, but then the Hindus reform themselves. So to stave off that threat, the priests start slowly adjusting the old Vedic ways. Sacrifice becomes less important in the new Hindu tradition. The worshippers have more direct access, so the priests sort of loosen their control a little bit. Three gods that emerge to become the principal gods of the Indian pantheon, Vishnu, Shiva, and Devi, become more prominent deities than they had been. And we don't exactly know how the process happened, but it takes place over a long period of time, hundreds of years, but by the 4th century CE, within 2 generations or so or 3 generations of the arrival of Buddhism, this new form of the Vedic tradition that we call Hinduism emerged. Some would argue that this is a tritheistic religion, that there are really 3 gods. We'll talk about them, I mentioned them a moment ago. And they all appear, they're kind of shape changers. They appear in different forms that will resonate with different parts of India. As a result, sometimes they're worshipped under different names than the 3 that we've talked about. And they can be very, very local. And some scholars suggest that there are over 330 million gods and goddesses in Hinduism. Okay? And in large part, that is acceptable because it allows for a very unifying aspect for Indian civilization. We've talked about how the Arya came in, they invaded, they displaced other peoples, there's all these tribalisms, nothing was very unified, and so different little cultic religions developed for little towns and villages and so forth. Well, within this new reorganization of Hinduism, all these gods are just fine. Right? They're all included because they're all seen as an avatar of the principal divinities, Vishnu, Shiva, and Devi, and some others as well. I should mention that. Avatar is a sort of way of talking about a different form or different appearance of something. Right? And we can see there what these gods and gods do. Vishnu is the preserver, who often appears as in an avatar as Krishna. So if you've heard of Krishna, that's really I think it's the cowherd god form of Vishnu. And that is the preserver, the one who sustains life, who sustains creation. Shiva, however, is associated with both creation and destruction. So these two work together. One creates, the other preserves. The first one destroys again in order to create again. So destruction is never done simply to wipe out or annihilate, but it's in order that a new creation might emerge. So you have this cycle of creation, preservation, and destruction. Devi also, this fertility goddess, has both a motherly instinct as well as a kind of violent destructive force. But again, there's seen that this destruction is a clearing of the way for new life. It's not necessarily negative. It's kind of like when a forest fire comes through. It seems so terribly destructive, and yet it's about clearing away undergrowth so that a healthier forest can emerge out of the ashes. Okay? And here we see the dancing Shiva, the Nataraja, in bronze. Usually these are bronze statues. And the dancing Shiva, this dance is associated both with the creative powers of Shiva as well as the destructive ones. That it wipes away old, tired, weary worldviews, things that no longer work, that need to be cleared away in order for a truly life-giving system to reemerge. The triumph of Hinduism in India. Even though Buddhism promised a release from reincarnation, the path is difficult. It's very kind of individualistic. It requires strict attention, and sometimes many followers will find it sort of too hard to follow. But Hinduism, with its personal divinities, its rites, its rituals, its color, its festival, really became quite popular again in India. And the path of Hinduism was clearer than sort of this finding your own way in the world that Buddhism, was suggesting. If you fulfill your duty, what the Hindus call dharma, your duty to your varna, then you will be reincarnated until you reach the cycle from rest. And there's a resilience in this life. You do your duty. You participate. It's interactive. It's, as I said, colorful and filled with ritual, and was therefore very appealing. Regardless, as I mentioned, that both of these religions have a belief in moksha, the end of the cycle of reincarnation and the attainment of nirvana. But Hinduism will stay very popular in India. Buddhism will take place in areas along the periphery of India. So Tibet, Central Asia, Southeast Asia, places like Thailand and Cambodia, and Laos and modern-day Vietnam. Even Korea, Buddhism will become very popular. Indonesia, Buddhism will be popular. And it will only really see probably its greatest challenge when Islam comes into some of those regions of the world, especially places like Indonesia and Central Asia. I'm going to conclude this with two examples of just absolutely incredible Indian architecture, Hindu temples. And these are places that for a long time were abandoned, especially Angkor Wat, discovered in the jungles here, which we see on the left. This is in modern-day Cambodia. That's a Hindu temple complex. And one in Indonesia, the islands off the coast of Southeast Asia, we see Prambanan. And so these were massive structures with these sort of towers, very intricately carved, and spires and decoration, and really masterworks of art and architecture in Southeast Asia. All right, well, that's all we have for now for Indian civilization. Some of the next topics we'll turn to now will be how many of the civilizations that we've looked at interact with each other across the trade routes in the Indian Ocean and in the Silk Roads of Central Asia. So thank you very much for listening. Take care.